If you want free, unsolicited advice in a wrestling video, it's that you shouldn't take life too seriously. Your job isn't that important. Your girlfriend leaving you won't end the world, and you're not that important. But more importantly than that, as much as we love tuning into our televisions to watch some fake fights, it is an extreme mistake to take all this nonsense seriously. But even with that in mind, in today's video, we're gonna look at the times WWE took things too far and brought in gimmicks that are just plain dumb as f***. Number 15, Pirate Paul Burchill. Picture this. You're sitting on your couch, ready for a wrestler to walk down that ramp with explosive energy. Maybe a brutal redemption story, something gritty. And then the music hits, and a pirate steps out. Yes, a pirate. In 2006, years after WWE pivoted to a more reality-based edgy product, Paul Burchill shows up swinging from ropes, dressed like he just got off the Black Pearl. Now, don't get me wrong, a little swashbuckling might be fun in the right movie, but in a WWE ring, Burchill's gimmick came off more like Disneyland than dangerous. And here's the kicker, he wasn't even an actual pirate from the past, just a guy who believed he was a descendant of Blackbeard. They tried to play it for laughs, but it ended up about as menacing as a Halloween costume gone wrong. So, after swinging his way through a few months, the pirate gimmick hit the plank, never to be seen again. And honestly, maybe that was the best treasure Burchill could have hoped for. Number 14, Mantaur. That's right, a dude dressed as a bull. I mean, come on. He sauntered in with a costume that looked like it was cobbled together from a bad Halloween store, all black and brown, complete with giant horns and an attitude more animalistic than any wrestler should be. He starts mooing and headbutting like he's at some livestock fair instead of in a wrestling ring. It's as if WWE decided the audience needed an animal in the mix. But what they got was a walking joke, a concept that suggests you can just throw a ridiculous costume on a guy and call him a beast. Instead of a ferocious fighter, you're left with a clown in a parody of a Western movie. What should have been moments of pure adrenaline turned into involuntary laughter. It's the essence of a failed attempt to introduce a monster that felt more like a circus attraction than a serious competitor. Mantaur became a distraction, a cartoon among gladiators. And in the end, the only thing he truly moved was the chance to elevate WWE to a more creative and fierce place. Instead, he ended up being a terrible act that nobody asked for and everyone wanted to forget. The costume faded away, but the memory, that's here to stay. Number 13, Max Moon, a wrestler from outer space. Or at least, that's what they want you to believe. He's decked out in a colorful, almost psychedelic armor that looks like it was ripped straight from a Saturday morning cartoon. Max Moon was supposed to be this futuristic warrior, but instead, he ended up feeling like a character lost in translation. An alien concept wrapped in shiny metal that screamed confusion more than cool. The gimmick was so convoluted, it felt like they threw darts at a board of ideas and just hoped for the best. You've got lasers, space travel, and a character who couldn't even explain his own backstory. It's like bringing a lightsaber to a sword fight, totally out of place and a little ridiculous. Number 12, Lord Tensai, a supposed Japanese warrior with an elaborate backstory that screams mystique. He's decked out in the traditional garb, looking like he just stepped out of a samurai epic. But here's the catch, the audience isn't buying it. They see through the facade because, let's be real, this is Matt Bloom, the guy they knew as Prince Albert. And there he is, marching down the ramp with all the gravitas of a man on a mission, while the fans are chanting, "Shave your back." The irony is thicker than the air in a sauna. He's trying to convince everyone that he's undergone some grand transformation after years in a Japanese dojo. But all anyone can think about is that time he donned a pair of biker shorts and made a name for himself by having a very distinctive appearance. This gimmick was supposed to elevate him to the status of a main event heel, but instead, it felt like watching your uncle show up to Thanksgiving dinner in a costume he clearly thought was epic, but everyone else found hilarious. It was like they slapped a new name on him, but the essence remained the same, the larger-than-life presence of a man who just couldn't shake off his past. And as Lord Tensai flailed about the ring, mixing in those classic wrestling moves with poorly received Japanese-inspired theatrics, you could practically hear the collective sigh from the audience. They wanted to take him seriously, but how could they? Number 11, the Repo Man. The Repo Man, a guy dressed like he just walked off the set of an 80s crime drama. Seriously, we're talking leather jacket, ski mask, and that questionable mustache that screams, "I might just steal your car." This isn't a wrestler. It's a bad 80s villain who forgot he's supposed to be in a wrestling ring, not a B-movie. The gimmick? He's supposed to be a Repo Man who reclaims items from his opponents, but instead of striking fear into the hearts of the audience, he comes off like a comical sidekick in a terrible sitcom. Imagine him sneaking up on someone and saying, "Hey, I'm here to take your stuff." The crowd doesn't know whether to boo or laugh because the absurdity is off the charts. It's like trying to sell a serious storyline while dressed as a cartoon character. He's running around the ring, pulling out random items from under the mat, as if he's at a yard sale instead of competing in a wrestling match. Instead of feeling like a legitimate threat, he's like that guy at a party who keeps trying to tell you how great his life is while fumbling his words. You want to be supportive, but all you can do is shake your head in disbelief. Number 10. The Red Rooster. Dressed in a ridiculous feathered outfit that looks like it was cobbled together by a blindfolded costume designer, he's all clucks and struts, ready to serve up some poultry-themed wrestling action. You can almost hear the record scratch as the audience collectively thinks, "What the hell is this?" This isn't just a wrestler. This is a man who decided to embrace the absurdity of life by dressing as a rooster and strutting his way into the ring. He embodies everything you expect from a parody of wrestling. A colorful character with a name so on the nose that it hurts. And just when you think it can't get worse, he's flailing about, trying to whip the crowd into a frenzy, but all they can muster is a mix of laughter and bewilderment. It's a train wreck you can't look away from, and the more he tries to play it straight, the more it feels like a parody of wrestling itself. In the end, the Red Rooster symbolizes everything that can go wrong when a gimmick is so ridiculous that it overshadows any real talent in the ring. Number 9. Kerwin White. Decked out in pastel polo shirts, slicked back hair, and riding a golf cart to the ring, he's a caricature of a privileged white guy. Kerwin White represents a glaring, cringe-worthy attempt to ignore his rich Hispanic heritage, trading in his roots for a laughably stereotypical white persona. His catchphrase, "If it's not white, it's not right." Just let that sink in for a moment. In a wrestling world that thrives on character depth and relatability, here comes Chavo Guerrero, donning a facade that's more ridiculous than any cartoon character. He could have been a hero, a proud representative of his culture, but instead, he became a punchline, floundering in a pool of misguided humor. As he saunters into the ring, you can almost hear the record scratch, the crowd caught between laughter and shock. He's tossing around golf references like they're some sort of currency, playing a role that's less about skill and more about the absurdity of his character. It's like watching a scene where a villain tries too hard to be relatable, but all you can feel is the awkwardness hanging in the air. And just when you think it can't get more bizarre, he's making off-color jokes at the expense of his own heritage, desperately trying to fit into a mold that he himself has rejected. The irony is thick enough to cut with a knife. This is a character who should have been proud, but instead, he's wallowing in a swamp of stereotypes, making it painfully clear that wrestling can sometimes dive headfirst into the ridiculous. Number 8. Brodus Clay. He was introduced as a monster, a powerhouse who could squash opponents with ease, but then the WWE decided to flip the script and turn him into a dancing smile and spectacle. Instead of fear, he brought laughter and confusion as fans struggled to reconcile this bizarre transformation. Brodus would shimmy and shake his way down the ramp, the audience caught in a whirlwind of confusion. Was this supposed to be serious? He was a Funkasaurus, a creature that belonged in a Saturday morning cartoon rather than a wrestling ring. The juxtaposition was jarring. One moment, you're expecting a fierce competitor, and the next, you're watching a man dance like he's in a musical. Despite the absurdity, there was something infectious about Brodus' energy. He made the crowd feel good, and in a way, he embodied the idea that wrestling doesn't always have to be dark and gritty. But the question remained, was this a clever twist, or just a long-running joke? His matches became a sort of comedic relief, the perfect piss break, as the wrestling world around him grew increasingly serious. Number 7. Sabba Simba. He strides down the ramp in a costume that looks like it was scavenged from a thrift store after a yard sale for defunct safari gear. It's a mashup of cliches, animal prints, beads, and a hairdo that screams, "I just came back from a drum circle." As Sabba enters, the crowd is a mix of bewilderment and awkward laughter. His intentions may have been noble, but the execution leaves you cringing in your seat. And just when you think it can't get more ridiculous, Sabba Simba pulls out moves that look like they were choreographed by someone who'd only seen wrestling once, flailing limbs and awkward footwork that turns every match into a comedic sketch. Number 6, Man Mountain Rock. He's a colossal figure, decked out in tie-dye and leather, wielding a guitar like a weapon of mass distraction. He's got the look, sure, but the depth? Forget about it. His character is a jumbled mess, more about flashy guitar solos than any real connection to the art of wrestling. As he plays his power chords and shreds like he's headlining a festival, the audience can't help but feel that something's missing, namely, a reason to care. The absurdity escalates when he attempts to transition from rocking out to actually wrestling. One moment he's jamming with the band, and the next, he's trying to deliver a body slam that lands flatter than his guitar riffs. The mismatch is palpable. The crowd is left questioning if they've walked into a wrestling match or a poorly conceived rock concert. And just when you think it can't get any more ridiculous, he engages in silly antics, pulling out guitar solos mid-match as if that's gonna convince anyone he's a serious contender. The sound of strings echoing in the arena turns into a metaphor for his career. A brief flicker of excitement quickly drowned out by the reality of his gimmick. Number 5, ECW Zombie. The ECW Zombie isn't just a character, he's a grotesque spectacle, a walking punchline to the revival of a beloved brand. He lurches towards the ring, clad in tattered clothes, makeup so over the top it looks like a Halloween party gone wrong. The audience watches, entranced and bewildered, wondering what exactly they've signed up for. Is this wrestling or a scene from a campy horror flick? And just when you think the Zombie couldn't get any more ridiculous, he steps into the ring against none other than the Sandman, the quintessential ECW icon. The contrast is staggering. One is a hardcore legend, while the other is a poorly conceived caricature of a monster. When the Sandman swings his kendo stick, dispatching the Zombie in record time, it's like a metaphorical slap in the face, a reminder that not all characters are created equal. Number 4, TL Hopper, a wrestling plumber. He struts down the ramp with exaggerated swagger, his tool belt jingling like a jester's costume, a plunger clutched like a championship trophy. As he approaches the ring, the audience is torn between laughter and disbelief. A plumber in wrestling, the absurdity is palpable. With each step, he grins, ready to fix your plumbing with the same flair as a high-stakes match. The commentary team struggles to maintain professionalism, one remarking, "What's next? A mechanic?" Once inside, TL tries to engage the crowd, shouting about leaky faucets and clogged drains. The response in the end, TL Hopper stands in the middle of the ring, tool belt hanging low, a goofy grin plastered on his face as the crowd roars with laughter. Number 3, Simon Dean. Simon Dean debuted in 2004 as a self-obsessed fitness guru marketing his fictional diet supplement program called the Simon System. He mocked fans and other wrestlers for their unhealthy lifestyles while promoting the benefits of his products. His character was meant to be funny, especially with the segue he rode to the ring, but the gimmick quickly lost its charm and faded into the background. Ultimately, Simon Dean rode his segue off into the sunset, never to be mentioned again. Number 2, Mordecai. Mordecai debuted in 2004 as a character shrouded in dark religious undertones, often compared to The Undertaker. Dressed in all white, he claimed to be a harbinger of light, coming to cleanse the sins of the wrestling world. The gimmick had potential, tapping into themes of good versus evil, but it quickly lost steam. Fans struggled to connect with a character that seemed more like a walking sermon than a compelling wrestler. Despite initial hype, Mordecai vanished from the scene after just a few appearances, leaving behind a legacy of missed opportunities and an unfinished narrative that never truly took off. Number 1, the Shockmaster. The Shockmaster debuted in 1993 with a gimmick that promised to be explosive, but quickly became one of the most infamous blunders in wrestling history. Bursting through a wall to make his grand entrance, he tripped and fell flat on his face, shattering the carefully crafted illusion of a menacing character. Dressed in a glittery stormtrooper helmet and a bedazzled vest, he was supposed to embody a powerful force of chaos, but the botched debut turned him into an object of ridicule instead. His presence was meant to electrify the audience, but instead, it sparked laughter and confusion. The attempt to salvage the gimmick only compounded the embarrassment, as he struggled to shake off the infamous fall that overshadowed his in-ring abilities. Ultimately, the Shockmaster became a cautionary tale in wrestling lore, a reminder of how one misstep can transform a character from a potential star into an enduring punchline. But what about you? Which gimmick do you think was the worst? Let us know in the comments below. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of the next videos we will release. See you in the next one.